This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I like the way I'm holding Dave a little extra for you, just so people realize you have a powerful first name, a real man's first name.
Yeah, no, I recognize that. But I didn't need you to do that. I knew before the show how powerful the name was.
Never doing it again. From now on, I'll just call you what you call yourself during Colin's show, Rothenberg.
You can call me Rothenberg.
No, you're not even
Dave.
Dave.
What was the little pun you were working? Davide?
Davide.
What was that? I don't know what that was.
It's just a play on Dave. You know, it's like when you're really tight friends with somebody. I guess we're not. But, you know.
Don't go there.
I'll just call you Rothenberg.
Don't go there.
From now on.
Stop. Don't start with this negativity. It's a great day.
It is a great day. We're going to have Michael Rapaport in studio at 12:30, which Michael's documentary, which some of you might have caught at the Tribeca Film Festival when it debuted there, but his 30 for 30 when the Garden was Eden about the Knicks championship days, it comes out next Tuesday. You believe it how quickly time went? From the Tribeca Film Festival.
Very quickly.
It went quickly. So next Tuesday it comes out on ESPN, and Michael's going to be in studio hanging out with us. Also, he's been in some awesome movies.
You know what's funny? You look, he's like that guy that's in everything. Like he is. If you name a movie, he's been in it. So he was in Prison Break, a movie you said you hadn't seen it, but I love it. Big Fan, which is about this lunatic Giants fan. Which is no wonder why.
Big Fan, it's called.
Yeah, which is no wonder why I love it. He was in My Name is Earl. He was in, what else has he been in that we've, I mean.
Well, TV show-wise, he's been in a ton. He was in Boston Public as Danny Hansen.
He was in Hitch. You remember that movie with Will Smith?
Yep, absolutely.
Boston Public, right? He was in that. He was in.
Zebrahead, True Romance.
Right.
He directed and produced the Tribe Called Quest documentary.
Now, this may
terrific.
He was also in Friends. Do you remember he dated Phoebe?
Yeah, he dated
in Friends.
Phoebe, yeah.
This may be the closest I'll ever get to Jennifer Aniston today.
But you're going to have to bring that up. I'm sure Michael will appreciate that. He's a huge sports fan, too.
Well,
so,
we'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, that's going to – what do you think? He's not a huge
No, I'm
sports fan?
sure he is, but you know what? Movies is his thing and sports is ours, so let's
no, sports is his thing, too.
Well, let's see.
Don't
I'm not
you
saying
think
he's not?
Now,
I'm
hold
just
on
saying,
a second.
let's see.
You know movies, too.
Yes.
Would you like someone to say, well, Dave doesn't really know movies.
I didn't say he didn't know
sports.
sports. Well, all I said is we'll be the judge of that.
I'm glad we have a guest coming in, and, you know, I need to defend him before he even gets to the studio.
You don't need to defend him. You know what wouldn't be fair of me? If I just catered like you do to, like, say, the Joe Panics of the world. Like, if I was just so excited for everything, like, let's put him through the ringer and see if he is, in fact, a real sports guy.
All right, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. He's coming in at 12:30. You know what else has been fun, Dave?
Tell me.
The baseball playoffs. And I know that right now you have one series that's 3-0, and so it would seem that that's a snoozer. But these games have been so tight. You have had so many one-run games already, and I believe it's 57% of the games thus far have been, or 59% of the postseason games thus far have been decided by one run. 13 out of 22 games have been decided by one run. And I know that some people will say, the ratings and that, and I'm always willing to entertain those discussions, even though I love baseball. But right now, watching this Royals team go on this run,
it's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, you know what it is? And it always used to be, people love home runs and the long ball, but I really, and maybe I'm alone, and if I am, that's fine. I like this Royals team because they play baseball the way, like, you were taught as a kid to play baseball.
Yeah, they do.
Right? Guy on second, nobody out, they hit the ball to the right side to get him to third. They get him in. They bunt well. They're a great defensive team.
Yep.
Their bullpen is lights out. They play small ball. They steal bases. I heard Colin all morning saying he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand why people like them. They don't sell out. They were a non-issue until weeks ago. You know what? They have completely captured my attention, and I hope they win the whole thing.
You know what? I want the Orioles to come back, which
and
I
win
know
the
is
series.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
I know, but that's what I'm hoping for because my best friend Al and the
here
whole
we
Carthol family, they're diehard Orioles fans. But I have to say, what I love.
Best friend Al.
Yeah,
How
he's
many
a great
best friends
guy.
do you have?
Well, I have two. Bobby and Al are my best friends. I got a lot of good friends.
Well, how about Troy?
Well, Troy's one of my closest friends, too.
And how about the other guy that we talk about all the time?
Matt Siegel?
Matt Siegel.
He's a very good friend, too.
You have a lot of friends.
I'm lucky in that respect.
You are. And
So-
if you know what the thing is, people are going to become friends with you now just to get their name mentioned on air.
Well, you know what? Fine. We can invite as many on the Ruocco Caravan of Friendship as want to join.
It's so interesting, though, because most people would just say, like, I have a friend who really likes this team. You actually name names.
Because
you'd be terrible
They
informed.
listen to the show.
Yeah, you'd be terrible, though. If the cops ever pinched you, you would tell them everything you knew.
Well, lucky for me, ESPN is not shipping me out to the CIA anytime soon.
Fortunately for you.
So here's the thing, though, Dave. And I had this theory the other day. I want to hear what you think of it. Because maybe you think it's a hogwash theory, just a total garbage theory. But I know a lot of times when we talk about sports and connecting with fan bases that aren't already rooting for this team. For example, you're a Met fan, I'm a Yankee fan.
Right.
We, in theory, don't have ties to the Royals or Orioles, right? What makes you invested? A lot of times it's a star. That usually is what happens. Now, you don't have that in this series, but when you have franchises that haven't won in a very long time.
I don't think you have that almost in the game of baseball at this point.
Agree. And so for me, what functions as a star instead is a great story.
Mm-hmm.
And the great story is two teams that haven't been in this spot in so long, and that's what engages me. Seeing the Royals go on a ride that they haven't been on in 29 years, that's interesting to me, even if they don't have a Pujols or a Bonds or a Griffey leading them on that chart.
I completely agree with you. They're fun. They're entertaining. And part of the attraction that I find to this team, Ryan, is they're small market. And I say it all the time, the Yankees have and the Dodgers and the Angels and the Red Sox have an unfair advantage in baseball. Now, you can argue until you're blue in the face, but they do. And it's not because of what they've done. It's the way baseball is set up. But you take a team like the Royals, who has, they can't go over a certain number, and they have set this team up, and it's taken them years. How many years did we watch the Royals? It was like the third pick in the draft, the second pick in the draft, Moustakas, and just you go up and down their team of top picks. Billy Butler was one of those guys, and Hosmer was one of those guys. And finally, after years and years of being the laughing stock of baseball, we sit here where they're a game away from going to the World Series. It's a great story.
And by the way, I know Colin was getting on the fans. Well, they're 26 and attendance. I'm sorry. I don't blame a fan base who's had 3 decades of losing for not hopping on until they knew this thing was up and running. No, Dave, what are they? So they're going into the season thinking, well, here we go again. They've been given no reason
early
to
on
root.
in the year, yes, but even late in the year, Ned Yost was very, very upset by the fact that huge games in September weren't selling out.
But sometimes this is what it takes. It takes these moments and these memories to ingratiate a fan base.
But I don't understand why that upsets Colin. How does the Royals selling out have any impact on me watching and enjoying these games now?
Well, no. I'd say quite functionally it has an impact because the game is a better television product if the crowd is full.
But the crowd is into it now. His problem is in June and July they weren't selling out. Nobody was at those games.
Yeah,
why do I care about that?
Because, by the way, this is a franchise that's been in the race in June and July in recent years and seen what comes after. So it took more for them to believe.
You ever go to Citi Field in June?
Oh, my gosh.
July?
Yeah. Right,
August?
exactly.
You have 20,000 people there?
Sit
is
where
that
you
what
want.
we're going to say?
Yeah,
and let's be honest, you go to a Yankees game and they're not sold out every single day anymore.
No, and because there's so many games and there's so many seats. What I know is right now, watching that atmosphere, I'm having a great time with it. So is Eric Hosmer.
It means a lot. These fans, they've had our back all season. And, come out here and bring an LCS game to Kauffman Stadium is very special. And you can see the energy and the atmosphere second to none out here.
You give the Orioles any chance to come back?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
No, obviously, I don't expect that. Look, you know what? And this is strange. I still don't look, and I love the way they play, and I'm totally on board with this team. I still don't look at the Royals as a championship team.
You realize if they win their next game, they'll be the first team to ever win their first 8 postseason games?
It's amazing.
It's
amazing. Look, I don't take anything away from them, but just, there's that smell test. I look at them and that test, James Shields, who's there? Vargas goes tonight. Guthrie, none of these guys.
But you know what? I agree with you, but here's the difficult thing from a Baltimore perspective. They don't have that guy either.
They don't. But, you say, can they come back? I don't think they will. I give them a small chance. If you had asked me, and we sat here before 2004, Did the Yankees have a chance to blow that series to the Red Sox? Could the Red Sox have come back? I would have said no, like zero chance.
Yeah.
You asked me that question today about this Orioles-Royals series. Yeah, I think there's a better chance than I thought there would have been in that game.
The tricky one for me is always the first one.
Sure.
Because then, if you win Game 4 if you're Baltimore, you look at it like this. We're a win away from going back home. And if you ever get it back home, to me, at that point, you have almost just as good a shot to win the series. Not totally, because you're still down a game, but almost, because you feel like this thing has turned. And, right now, the Royals are riding a magic carpet ride that's as profound as any we've seen from a team in this sport, maybe any sport, for an unexpected run in a long time. But if that balloon pops with just one loss, I don't know what happens after that.
Come on, one loss?
I don't know.
So if they lose today, you think that they're in trouble?
I don't think they're in trouble, but all of a sudden I'm going to start to think, that'll be the noise I
when do you
make.
start to sit here and think, oh my, after it's 3-2?
Yeah, if they send it back to Baltimore, that's when I do the oh my. But if the Orioles win today, I do the that's the noise I'll make.
Royals, Giants will be your World Series? Or you're not there yet?
So, but the Cardinals and Giants, all three of these games have been tremendous.
You know what the issue is? Molina. He's the best player on that team.
It's a huge
He's the best player on that team. There's no one more clutch than he is. There's no better, and I know Posey's tremendous. There's no better catcher in baseball than Molina. He does not have a weakness in his game.
No.
Okay? He calls a brilliant game. The pitchers have complete confidence in him. He blocks everything. You can't run on him. He's a big-time hitter. In the clutch spots, his game raises. He is a great catcher. And to not have him, I think, is a huge loss for the Cards.
It's a huge loss, but it's amazing. You put on the Cardinals jersey, and if you're Colton Wong or if you're John Jay or who's the kid who hit the tying home run last night to tie it at 4? Was it Martino? No. Who was it again, Jeff? Randall Grichuk hit it to tie the game. Yeah. I mean, when you put on the Cardinals uniform, you just get the clutch gene. Those two teams are playing a terrific, exciting series right now. But I have to say, if it wasn't for Joe, panic, go ahead, hit it, I would be much more interested in the ALCS because it's two teams I haven't seen before.
Well, I think that's the allure for the Royals.
Yes.
They haven't, forget about winning, because the Orioles haven't won in longer than the Royals haven't won, right? 83 for the Orioles, 85 for the Royals. They haven't been there. They haven't been to the postseason since 1985, Ryan.
It's long.
30 years.
So it's a long, long time.
I love the story. And everyone, you know what? It's a great story. And everyone that tries to knock it down, I just think that's what you are. You're somebody that likes to try and cut the legs off of great stories.
I've never understood the person who goes to somebody else's party and decides they want to, knock over the piñata before anybody gets a chance.
I mean, what happened the other day? You were talking about this before we went on the air. Hosmer, they win over the Angels. And Hosmer tweets, we're going to Steve's pub, come join us, first hour's on us.
Amazing.
And they spent like $30,000 on the fans.
Right.
How cool is that?
It's amazing. And it makes you root for people. It's like the Olympics for me a little bit. I compare it to the Olympics because when I watch the Olympics, do I really care about, the slalom or the
slalom?
I don't know how you say it.
The slalom?
It's some form of skiing, isn't it?
Slalom. The slalom?
There's no H in there.
Shalom.
I think
Were you trying to say shalom?
I think I was inventing my own sort of Jewish skiing right there.
Yes.
I think that's what was happening.
Yes, very injury-prone, a lot of complaining. Yes.
You said it, not me.
No, that's right.
So, Dave,
slalom.
But like if it's that or it's swimming or something else that's easier to pronounce, if it's water polo, I don't care unless there's a story, It has to be a story. And now all of a sudden I get invested.
But you would care about the ALCS if there wasn't a story. If
you know
this
what?
was Orioles and whoever, you would be into it.
Yes, but there's a couple teams that if this was
Who?
Rays, Rangers, I would not care at all.
You would not watch?
No, I wouldn't care. I might put it on in the background, but there'd be no piece of me that's invested. But I'm invested because this feels like a story. It feels like that great slalom skier who you learned.
Phil Mayer.
Yeah,
You have no idea who Phil Mayer is.
None. Who saved people in another country.
Peekaboo Street.
Yeah, those kind of stories. Right. She's named because she loved peekaboo. Those kind of stories.
No. She didn't have a name because she loved peekaboo. Her name was Peekaboo Street.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure she was called peekaboo because she loved the game peekaboo when she was a little kid.
No, I think on her birth certificate, her name is Peekaboo.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure.
I think we need to check this.
We can double check.
You understand my point, though?
Slalom is not an event.
I'm sure you're sure of that. My point is the Royals take on that means of a story and thus have us connected.
I get that, but I think that puts you in this is why the NFL is king, and I hate to go back to the NFL because if it was any two teams in the NFL, you'd watch it if it was a championship game.
Of course, but it's nice to have this moment
It's nice to have it. I would watch Rays Rangers, and we saw Rays Rangers a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right? We saw the Rangers in big spots. We saw them in the World Series. It was one of the great World Series you'll ever see.
But I agree. It was a great World Series.
Right.
It was. But I'm just saying those teams on face, they've won enough recently. That's not a great story. Wouldn't have hooked me. 1-800-919-3776, the telephone number on the Maserati of Morris County hotline. That's 1-800-919-3776. Are you guys hooked? Are you into it? Plus, there's been something said about the Victor Cruz injury that I've been dying to get your perspective on.
You told me you were going to tell me this yesterday.
So I'll do it next.
I am waiting.
And we have Michael Rapaport coming up as well with Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPN New York.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
All right, Bill. Ruocco and Rothenberg with you on ESPN New York 98.7 FM, a Thursday night on MSG Network. Henrik and the Rangers host the Carolina Hurricanes. Live pregame coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Then the Rangers and Canes face off Thursday night at 7 only on MSG Network. By the way, Bill, you're going to be fine getting home.
Yes, I just saw that. The president's trip to New Jersey and Connecticut.
Yes.
Off, Bill.
Wow!
Yeah.
Let's have a parade. Let's have a party. He's not going to come?
Well,
Here's
no,
the
I don't know
news.
if you want to have a parade for the reason, though, because there's an emergency Ebola meeting at the White House.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That's a little different.
You will no longer be inconvenienced on your ride home.
So that means I can hang around then.
Yes,
I
all
don't have
day.
to be like a bolt out of the blue.
That's right.
I mean, he was literally going to be from where we sit right now, as far as we have to walk to the elevator. That's how close he was going to be to my house.
You could have had him over.
I told my wife this morning, I said maybe he'll, walk through the neighborhood.
Could have been very nice. Had him
never
over,
know.
done a little fundraising,
Now he's
watched
not
a movie.
coming, huh?
That's off the table for
False
you now,
alarm. Okay, Union, back to normal.
There you go.
Bang.
So I've been telling you about this for a while, Dave, and I'm not sure I buy it, but I want to get your perspective as a diehard Giant fan.
Diehard Giants fan.
Sean O'Hara was on the Michael Kay show the other day and was talking about Victor Cruz's injury. Take a listen.
He wasn't crying because he was in pain. He was crying because he knew that his season was over. He knew right then. He knew when he grabbed his knee that season was over. And there's so much time, so much work, so much energy that goes into just being prepared and just training for a season. And just like that, it can be taken away from you. I think it's very tough for players to wrap their head around the magnitude of that until it happens to them. And Victor has gone through a little knee issue before, so he already knows what that's like. And I think that's why he was so emotional, because he's been down this road before when he hurt his meniscus. But I think for the other players, sometimes when things like that happen, they can really rally a team, because now everybody, it really hits home just how fragile this game can be, just how fragile a career can be.
You buy the rallying the team aspect of this at all?
Is it possible? I guess it's possible. Here's my thing, and I talked about this earlier this morning. I don't know how good they are. I just look at that offensive line, and I think it's a weak link. The way the Eagles exposed them, Ryan, is very, very concerning. The defense, I think they're pretty average.
The offensive line was awful in that game.
It was terrible.
But they have been very good the previous 3 weeks.
Yeah, but if you're a defensive coordinator, don't you try and watch tape till you can't keep your eyes open to see what Philadelphia did to completely disrupt the Giants?
Sure, but they probably would have done the same thing with what the Lions did to the Giants' offensive line, and no team had that success in the previous 4 weeks, really, because even the Cardinals didn't get at it.
But I think that the Lions' front four is really good. Like, it's scary good. Sue and Fairley, and they have some real players up there. The Eagles' defense has been horrendous, and they completely took the Giants out of the game. So, do I think they could rally? Yeah, look, you've seen big-time players go down and teams, get better. Look, the Packers, when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with Aaron Rodgers, they had like 20-something guys on injured reserve, and they were able to rebound. The Giants, the next year, they did it with a lot of guys that were injured, and they were okay. I just don't know how good they are. Like, a rally to what? Like, if you don't have the talent, you're not good enough anyway. Like, I looked at the Giants this year as an 8-8 team. I still look at them and think that they're a 500 kind of team. So I don't know that they're better or worse. Not having Victor Cruz long term, I think they're still pretty mediocre.
My problem would be when I think about the Eli era and injuries they've been able to overcome, they've suffered some big ones in the 2 Super Bowl runs. In the first Super Bowl run in 2007, a bunch of their cornerbacks went down. And that was when Corey Webster really emerged and became a lockdown corner for a couple of years after we had waited a few years for that. A few years ago, They had injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and they were able to come through. The one thing that they have not been able to overcome injury-wise, in Eli's era, has been a loss of that comfort receiver. First, it was Toomer. When Toomer went down with the torn ACL, Eli fell apart that one season. When Plaxico went down with the shooting himself, offense completely changed.
Totally changed. When
Akeem Nicks went down, became a shell of himself, offense completely changed. That's what I would worry about is over the last, 6, 7, 8 years, when they've lost one of those receivers who Eli really trusts and relies on, they have not been able to pick up the slack. Be representative maybe, but not have somebody slot in and still make them a force.
And look, I like Victor Cruz. I think he is a tremendous receiver. But if you look at his numbers this year, he wasn't lighting the world on fire. He was not having an incredible season. We'll see what Beckham is. We've been excited by Beckham. We were frustrated with the hamstring and he couldn't play. He looks like he's going to be good. Now's the time. There are some positions in the NFL that you just can't come in right away and be very good at. Receiver's not one of those. Receiver and running back, you can come in and you can make an immediate impact. Let's see. Do I think that they're done? They're 3-3. Okay, so they're not done. You'd be foolish to say they're done. Do I have concerns that this thing could spiral? Yeah, but for 2 reasons. A, the injuries. B, I don't think they're that good. 3, look at the next 5 games on the schedule.
Well, they're incredibly difficult. But then it softens a lot. If they could ever get through these next 5 and somehow go 3-2, they are set up then for the finish.
I told you 6-5 after 11. I think if you told me 5-6 after 11, that I would consider that to be a win.
Yeah. Then you would have, because you'd have 4 games you probably should win. And then one game you could win against the Eagles. And you would have a shot at 9, 10 wins.
But if you can't win 2 of 6, which is all we're asking, you don't deserve to have a chance
and
to
you
go
have
to
a
the
couple
postseason.
of those at home as well.
Right. Indy's at home. San Francisco's at home.
And then
Dallas is at home.
Right.
You go to Seattle, which I know what they just did, but the Giants are not going to win in Seattle. You can't convince me otherwise of that.
Yeah.
And where else do you go? And then you go this week to Dallas. So it's a really tough 5-game stretch.
Trent Dilfer, are the issues fixable for Big Blue?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very correctable. You'll see backs inserted. You'll see some different formations to protect it. You'll see some different run opportunities now to take advantage of those A-gap situations. Like anything in football, it's chess, right? They're going to do one thing. You have a counter move to it. Create a couple gash plays in the run game or action game, and you can run teams out of that rather quickly.
Ruocco and Rothenberg with you on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. This is going to be fun, Dave. Man of higher learning fame, True Romance, Zebra Head. Friends, that's right. A man who's a New Yorker and a huge sports fan who has When the Garden Was Eden coming out, the newest 30 for 30 next week, October 21st. Michael Rapaport is going to be in studio with Ruocco and Rothenberg next on ESPN New York.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I've never seen the drivers under this much pressure before. The 2-car of Brad Keselowski, the 48 of Johnson, the 88 of Dale Jr., they are certified in trouble.
The Contender Round. 3 races.
Kansas, Charlotte, Talladega.
We're talking chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
4 will be eliminated, 8 will advance.
The final race in the Contender Round. 12 nations battle, 8 advance. The Geico 500 at Talladega, Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
There's going to be some hearts broken when that one's over.
This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Michael Rapaport is here. We're thrilled to have you. Michael.
That's why they're jealous.
You are how old? You're how old?
I am 44.
Okay, I am 41. So Ryan is a child. Ryan is 27. But Ryan says this to me the other day, right?
Why are you going to start off on this note? What?
I'm going to tell him a story.
All right,
we're all friends. He likes you. You can tell you've already bonded over mutual friends.
We have a very good mutual friend.
Does that mutual friend have a name?
Chef Shane. Yes.
Chef Shane.
He's the unbelievable chef of Distilled in Tribeca.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking to our program director the other day, we're talking about you coming in, where everyone's very excited by this. And Ryan turns to me, in all seriousness, he wasn't kidding. He goes, people of your age, Dave, they love Michael Rapaport.
This is what I said.
I said my age? What are you talking about?
I meant like all my friends who are like in their 30s and early 40s, you're a god to them. Like True Romance, Zebra Head, Higher Learning.
Well, who's your god then? If I'm a god to them, then who's replaced me as your god?
No, you're definitely in there for me too. You're definitely
but
in there for me.
But I'm not your god. I want to know who's replaced me
as your guy.
You know what? That's a good question. Who I just like.
They don't make man's man anymore.
They don't. Exactly.
They all shave their chests, so right off the bat, you're screwed.
Exactly. That's true. I've been searching for years, and you know what?
I'll be your god. Don't worry about it.
All right, good.
I'll be your older god.
I appreciate that.
Worries.
I need that, Michael.
No
I
worries.
need that. So you have the 30 for 30 coming out that we want to talk plenty about because we have a huge Knick listening audience. This is the Knicks station.
Yes.
And it's When the Garden Was Eden, which premieres on Tuesday of next week on ESPN. But I first, you're a huge sports fan.
Yes.
And I know that you right now, like anybody, is going through some trials and tribulations in fantasy football, and you have this debate, which you're recruiting some people from our staff to try and help you with, right?
So, I'll take advice from anybody.
Okay,
you got to be very careful here.
I know,
because we have people here that are fantasy idiots.
So, well, they said that same thing about you, but they were just off the air.
I'm the fantasy guy here.
I'm just telling you.
I host a fantasy show on the network on Sundays.
All right, okay.
So
you can help me out.
I don't know that I can help you, but I know
what
that
do you mean you don't know that you're not in my league? Give me some tips.
I will help you the best of my abilities. All I know is that there are some people here that if you're taking, like you think you're, no, Jeff is very good. This guy that's walking in now, Cole, horrendous.
Okay.
He's 0-6. He traded LaShawn McCoy. It's almost as if he doesn't know what's going on in fantasy football.
You're 0-6 and you're giving me advice, man?
That's what was my concern.
Okay. So
you're going to the wrong people.
So I am now in the Howard Stern Fantasy Football League.
Which that in itself is pretty darn cool.
It's pretty darn cool, but it's only going to be real cool if I beat them.
Okay.
Okay, and I am actually winning the league. I have my 12-year-old son and his 11-year-old friend who's like a mini Bill Simmons. Literally, they have doing all my transactions. So one of the players in there, the opponents, so I'll leave nameless because I want them to be nameless, faceless losers.
Gotcha.
Jason Kaplan. He proposed that I trade my backup quarterback, Phillip Rivers, because I have Peyton as a starter, for Fred Jackson.
Which is criminal.
No, I mean Phillip Rivers right now. He's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Right.
I almost started him 2 weeks ago over Peyton, but then Peyton had the 39 points. So anyway, and he also has Gronkowski and who else is he? And Lamar Miller. So I said, give me Gronk,
right,
and Lamar Miller, and I'll give you Phillip Rivers. Or I said, give me Jordy Nelson straight up, and I'll give you Phillip Rivers.
I think I'd do either of those deals if I was Michael, because Phillip Rivers isn't going to play for you. So.
Yes. Here's the thing. You have no use for having Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers.
Yes.
Right? So even if you took 80 cents on the dollar, that makes sense for you. But
Yes.
Fred Jackson is criminal.
Criminal. And my flex is currently Chris Ivory.
Also criminal.
Man, that's beyond criminal. That is just a heartbreak.
Having a Jet as a fantasy player is the worst.
I tried to do handcuffs. You know, like my 11-year-old's like, we'll get handcuffs. We get, Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory. And it worked the first couple of weeks, Chris Ivory. But now, and I was just at the Jets game, and they treated me like gold.
Yeah.
So they treated me like gold at the stadium and the Jets organization. But as a fantasy player, I got to make a move.
You got to take your allegiance out. But who are your teams?
I'm a Giants fan.
So if I said to you the number one team that you would want to see win a championship of all your teams, it would be who?
Oh, by far, it's the New York Knicks. Basketball is by far my main thing.
Yeah.
Football is secondary, but and baseball, I'm not a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
But basketball, the Knicks, if you wanted a team to win a championship, it would be the Knicks because everyone else has won here in the city since then.
So were you thrilled that Melo came back, or were you
absolutely thrilled that Melo came back? You know, he pushed himself here to become a Knick. So I was really, if he left, leaving us empty-handed in the state that we would have been in if he had left, it's like having the circus in town with no clowns or with like no elephants. Like he would have been leaving. Like we would have been a starless Knicks team.
Yes.
Which I mean, it would have been really bad if he left.
Even if you're going to be the 7 or 8 seed, it's a lot better having a star to watch.
Yeah, and people at least are interested if that's the case.
And would the Garden have actually still sold out if Carmelo had left? Anyway, he's here.
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know.
But these are questions we don't have to answer.
We don't have to answer because he's here.
Are you excited about Phil Jackson?
I'm very excited about Phil Jackson. I'm very excited about, look, he's never lost. He's won wherever he's been. And if Phil can't do it, nobody can do it.
Right. I agree with that. And you had a chance to talk with Phil when you were shooting When the Garden Was Eden, right? So were you saying, hey, how's our team looking? Were you doing those conversations?
When we started shooting When the Garden Was Eden, they hadn't even discussed Phil coming back. But my Tourette syndrome that I didn't have, except for when I realized I was in front of Phil Jackson, like I was there to talk about the old Knicks, and I was excited. But you just want to be like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dennis Rodman.
I have that as well.
You just it was just a privilege and an honor talking to him. And he started the interview by saying, "I got 20 minutes for you," and he stayed for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and he told me everything that I wanted to know. And it was just it was a privilege to talk to all of them, and it was just and I got to screen the movie. I got invited by Phil Jackson to screen the movie at West Point before training camp, the night before training camp, for the Knicks and the staff, and that was an honor.
Oh, awesome!
And really exciting. So it's been a real fun thing as a fan.
How did they react to it at the screening?
Honestly, they reacted so good. And they were so excited, and they had so many questions afterward, the players and the staff. And for me, growing up, literally wanting to be a basketball player, and then wind up being an actor, and now a director and an actor, have all these three things happening at once. It was a surreal moment, like to hear them like responding and acting, and like being around the Knicks team, and like being invited by Phil Jackson. It was the closest I'll ever be to being an NBA player in my life.
So how did you get involved with this project? Is this something that they came to you? Did you go to them and say, "Let's do this. We can make this work"?
Well, at first, I did a documentary about a group called the Tribe Called Quest.
Oh yeah, we know it. Yeah.
And it was very well received, and then they knew that I was a big sports fan, and actually Fife from a Tribe Called Quest brought up doing a documentary. He connected me with Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf from LSU.
Sure.
And we were going to do a 30 for 30 on him, but that fell apart. And then Doug Ellen, I'm sorry, I'm name dropping.
From Entourage.
Creative Entourage.
Yeah.
And his partner, they said, "What about When the Garden Was Eden?" And I was like, yeah. And so we brought it to ESPN, and they were like, "Yo, if you can get the guys, we want to do it." They did it like off the conversation. And because obviously they knew the story, and it started really quick, and it was just really fast and furious, and it was about 15 months ago, and here we are now.
Wow, it's amazing. So we think about the Knicks, and you're documenting the glory days.
The glory days.
When it was Eden. What was you talk with so many guys who were a part of those teams, around those teams. What was the thread of that team? If you were going to say the number one thing that was most commonly said or expressed, what would it be about that group?
Team. It was a consummate team. I mean, they had nobody that averaged over 20 points. Ball movement, hit the open man, and see the ball and hit the open man. That's what they talk about. Red Holtzman drilled that into their head. And the ball movement and this sort of sacrifice. I mean, Earl Monroe's sacrifice Earl Monroe was like, man, he was like, compared to today, was like Russell Westbrook, he was a one-man band. He was a star, and when he came to New York, his stats went down drastically to get that ring. So, I think it was just there was a culture of sacrifice, and just it was really that team was akin to the San Antonio Spurs of the last decade. Ball movement and just playing for the team. So that was the one thing that kept on coming up. With the interviews, it was team.
Now you and I are pretty much the same age.
Yes,
I don't have any recollection of those Knicks teams.
Me
you don't either.
None. I was born in 1970. I was born, but growing up in New York, my father always talked about Bill Bradley's movement without the ball, and Dave DeBusschere and how tough he was, and Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier, and just he talked about all of them. And to be honest, in the 80s, in the Bernard King, Patrick Ewing, Hubie Brown era, you were like, oh, who cares about those old teams? We need to win it. And then in the 90s, it was the Anthony Mason, who I actually saw the other day. He's a monster.
Yeah.
He's huge.
In a lot of ways. He's a big
That's
man.
a big person.
He is a big human.
So, but I loved him as a Knick.
Oh, he was a great Knick.
The John Starks, Latrell, Pat Ewing, Oakley era. You think about one of the most revered sports figures in the last 20 years in New York is John Starks. This guy shot us into games. He shot us out of games. He headbutted us into games and out of games.
But the dunk over Jordan, he had great moments.
He had great moments. But the thing about him that we loved, and while he'll always be revered here, is because he left blood on the floor. It was crazy at times. It was dysfunctional at times. But the reason why we loved him so much is because you knew he was there to win. He tried to shut down Jordan. And I think that New York responds to players like that. The city, whether it's in any sport. So And I think that team in the 70-73 team that I wasn't even born when they won, and then I was 3 when they won the second championship, the city responded to them because they felt like they were one of them. Like these guys were doing it to win for the city, and they were part of the fabric of the city. And it was just a different time. And, one of the things that was interesting about that team and that time that I learned that I didn't really understand was that, before the New York Knicks won, the NBA was like a mom-and-pop league that was dominated solely by the Boston Celtics. Yeah. And the only people that cared were people in Boston. But when that team won with those characters and the way it won, with the drama of Willis Reed coming out and the characters of the Clyde Frazier and that image in front of the madmen on Madison Avenue, it changed the NBA. That was the beginning of the NBA becoming, a hot thing. Before that, it was gamblers and men smoking cigarettes, watching the game. Then the Woody Allens and the Diane Keatons and the Robert Redfords and the Zero Mostel's and the stars started showing up. And it became like a Broadway show. People started bringing dates to the game.
It was the place to be.
It was the place to be, and it changed the course of the NBA. And it took it out of – it was like a lacrosse league now. Like no one cared. No, it's hard to think of that and realize that, but it was a small little league. So
that is fascinating, actually, that it's those teams that brought it there. I want to ask you a little bit more about that, Michael. Can you hang around?
Of course, I would love to stay.
All right, good. So Michael Rapaport with us in studio. He directed, produced When the Garden Was Eden. It's coming out next Tuesday on ESPN, the newest 30 for 30. We have a pair of Rangers Sharks tickets to give away for October 19th at the Garden. We'll give them away to whoever tweets at Jeff Candelmo, our wonderful producer, with the best question for Michael. So Michael's going to be hanging out until the end of the show. You tweet at us at Jeff Candelmo. So tweeting at us because the show. With the best question for Michael, we'll have him answer it on air as long as he's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, and then you will win the tickets as well. Ruocco and Rothenberg with you on ESPN New York.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
That's right, hanging out with Michael Rapaport in studio. We were just talking, Michael, about True Romance because that is a favorite movie of so many of my friends. It's Bill Daughtry's, one of his all-time favorites.
It is one of the most underrated movies, a mega cast.
That cast is, now at the time, you're working with Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Walken, Brad Pitt, Gary Oldman, Val Kilmer, Dennis Hopper, Christian Slater. I mean, the cast, Gandolfini, it's absurd in that movie. Did you know it was going to be all these actors that would go on to be stars?
And it was a Quentin Tarantino script.
Yes.
Directed by the late, great Tony Scott. To be honest with you, that was the only film that I've ever done where I knew it was going to be special. And I was very young. That was maybe my third or fourth thing I'd ever done, third or fourth actual job as an actor. So, but there was just so much excitement around the script first in Hollywood, and everybody was trying to get in that film. And then you started hearing about the casting and who was going to be in it. And, Brad Pitt's going to do this part. Why is he going to do that part? It's only 12 lines. He's doing it. Christopher Walken's, he's playing the gangster? Oh, my God. And now they got Dennis Hopper. So, it was that kind of excitement. And I would show up to the set when I wasn't working just to watch scenes get filmed because it was just there was just an energy around that film and an energy around that script, and there was such an excitement around Quentin Tarantino and his voice. People honestly bring up that film to me at least once a day.
Wow.
Every day somebody says something about it.
And 1993, that's a long time ago.
Yeah,
now.
and it's a real privilege and an honor to have been a part of something that, still resonates to this day. So.
It's funny. I look at your bio and True Romance and NYPD Blue and, The Scout. Not great, but still, Higher Learning, The Basketball Diaries, which I don't even remember you being in, yep. Mighty Aphrodite. The one I got to ask you about, and you're going to look at me and be like, all right, now he's turned this into a little awkward. Friends.
Yes.
Because Jennifer Aniston.
How's that awkward?
Because I'll tell you, because I don't really care about your time on Friends. I want to know about Jennifer Aniston. She is phenomenal. I think she is absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. Is she nice? Tell me the truth.
Very sweet, very nice, very engaging. They were all cool, and they were all really nice. They were very welcoming and encouraging. But to answer your question, Jennifer Aniston is beautiful and just a very sweet person. And at that time, the show was a success. It wasn't as huge as it wound up. It wasn't like the $1.5 million a week they were making. But at that time, when I showed up, they were doing good. So I don't think there was any reason for anybody to be upset. Because it was probably $500,000 a week. You could smile and laugh when Michael Rapaport shows up. So they were cool.
You could live on that.
And you could live on that. $500,000 a week, you could be just fine.
So the winner of the Rangers Sharks tickets we have, Michael, he tweeted this question.
All right.
At ChrisMitch86 tweeted at Jeff Candelmo, our producer, said, what would you give up for a Knicks championship? He wants to know, Michael.
Jesus, what would I give up?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man. What I'd give up. What would I give up?
Would you give up meat?
For a season? Would I give up meat?
Would you give up meat for 18 months for the Knicks to win a title?
I'm a pescatarian. It's not that hard. You can pull it off.
Now, don't convince him of that. It's hard. Come on. If you're a
It
man
is
that
hard.
likes meat, you're going
It's
to
hard.
not want to give that up.
I like steak. I like prosciutto.
Would you give it up for 18 months?
For them to win a championship this year or
This
just
year.
before I
This
die?
year.
Yeah, I'd give it up. I'd give it up. I'd give it up. I'd give it up. I'd be healthier. I know I shouldn't eat as much meat as I do.
Your cholesterol would go way down?
Cholesterol go down. I'd miss my prosciutto sandwiches at Sal and Chris's out in Queens. But, I'd miss my chicken wings by our guy, Chef Shane. But, I'd give it up.
Terrific.
For the Knicks to win this year.
Yeah,
you do it.
And to beat, do I get to have this? I definitely give it up. Do I get to have them beat the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Then you have to give up a toe. Would you give up a toe?
I'm giving up meat for 18 months,
You
man.
can have the meat
Which
back.
toe? A baby? Like the little
baby toe surgically taken off as you're under anesthetic.
They beat the Cavs in the Garden in Game 7.
And you can have meat sandwiches while you're watching that, but you're giving up the toe now.
Yes, if they could beat the Cavs in Game 7 at the Garden.
At the buzzer.
At the buzzer,
Yes.
and the everybody's playing. LeBron
is playing and,
I like that.
and weeps as he walks off the court.
Yes.
Yes.
I give up meat and my left baby toe.
Done.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I've never seen the drivers under this much pressure before. The 2-car of Brad Keselowski, the 48 of Johnson, 88 of Dale Jr., they are certified in trouble.
The Contender Round. 3 races.
Kansas, Charlotte, Talladega.
We're talking chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
4 will be eliminated, 8 will advance.
The final race in the Contender Round. 12 nations battle, 8 advance. The Geico 500 at Talladega, Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
There's going to be some hearts broken when that one's over.
This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Michael, I want to ask you a little bit more about the film, but before we do, instead of asking all 3 questions of our showdown,
Yes.
can we have you just ask us the final question? We're going to throw to our showdown where Dave and I debate. We go up against each other, but rather than do all 3, we'll just have you do the final question.
All right.
All right, but first, it's time for the showdown.
Showdown on Ruocco and Rothenberg.
You ain't first, you're last.
25 seconds. Best take wins.
Or you think you're better than me?
That is correct.
Let's get it on.
All right, Michael, what's the last question?
All right, the most important question and the last question is, what is your favorite thing that Michael Rapaport, I'm saying my own name in the third person, what is your favorite thing that Michael Rapaport has appeared in?
Ooh, all right. Well, we have 25 seconds beginning with...
Rothenberg, go!
It was Big Fan. It's a sports movie about a fanatical Giants fan. That's me. When that movie came out, people thought, oh my goodness, is this the Dave Rothenberg story? You were the bad guy. You were the Philadelphia Phil in that movie. There was a lunatic, Patton Oswalt, who played the Giant fan. Best line of the movie. In jail at the end, looking at the upcoming schedule for the season, saying, boy, this is going to be a great year. Best movie you were in. Big fan. Done. Ryan, you can take the question off.
Wow, how about that? Now, you are going to be the judge. I'm going to get a chance here to respond, and you are going to be the judge. All right?
Come up with something good.
That was pretty strong, all right? That was pretty strong.
I do what I can.
All right.
Ruocco, go!
Look, I know we've already been talking about it a ton, but it has to be true romance. When a movie lasts for decades, the way that this one has, that's a career maker. Not that you would have needed it, Michael.
Yeah.
But it is. When you work with Val Kilmer and Gary Oldman and Brad Pitt and that entire cast, you have a bond and a fame that lasts forever. Plus, that movie was story after story after story unfolding as it happened. And when I have multiple generations constantly citing it as their favorite movie, to me, that has to take the cake as the best Michael Rapaport performance.
That's good. All right, so I appreciate the love from both. But I must say, the Big Fan thing, I think that you're saying the Big Fan was your favorite Michael Rapaport thing. Less to do with Michael Rapaport, and more to do with you. So, with all due respect, I have to go with the true
Point
romance.
Ruocco.
But I understand, but I appreciate, but I feel like anybody could have played Philadelphia Phil, and you'll be like, you related to Big Fan because you're a nut job.
But do you think that Ruocco
wins?
No.
I'm just saying.
Watch this.
No, I feel
You're like a boxing judge. You didn't see what just happened. I was dominant.
No, I think but it was more about, I think it was more about you, and the question wasn't about what was your favorite thing for you. It was more about the performance of Michael Rapaport.
Anybody could have taken True Romance. It was the easy way out. It's like answering C on a multiple choice test. I went deep into the Michael Rapaport archives. Whatever the reasoning was, it was very well thought out and conceived. You took the low-hanging fruit.
But the Michael Rapaport archives, I just wanted to say my name in the third party one more time. Anyway, go ahead.
You know what? That was awesome. I wish we had more time, Michael. Real quick, before we turn it over to Mike Lupica here, the documentary comes out Tuesday, 9 p.m. on ESPN, and there's Willis Reed fight footage that's never been seen before.
Never, ever been seen before that we were granted by David Stern and the current commissioner, Adam Silver. They gave it to me, and I begged and pleaded, and it's kind of shocking. Willis Reed in 1963, opening night at the Garden, took on the entire Laker team by himself. It made what Ron Artest did a few years ago look like child's play.
Wow, he's a tough guy.
This is a tough guy, and it was impactful not just because of the fighting, because it was more impactful to show that the Knicks weren't going to be pushovers anymore.
You know what? It's going to be terrific. When the Garden was eaten, 9 p.m. next Tuesday on ESPN. Michael, this has been so much fun. Thanks for hanging out.
I'm glad to be. I'm a fan, and it was a pleasure.
That is Michael Rapaport.
Michael Rapaport was happy to be here.
Thank you, Michael Rapaport.
And we were happy to have you. Ruocco and Rothenberg returns in 23 hours. Lupica up next.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I've never seen the drivers under this much pressure before. The two-car of Brad Keselowski, the 48er Johnson, the 88er Dale Jr., they are certified in trouble.
The Contender Round. 3 races.
Kansas, Charlotte, Talladega.
We're talking chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
4 will be eliminated, 8 will advance.
The final race in the Contender Round. 12 nations battle, 8 advance. The Geico 500 at Talladega, Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
There's going to be some hearts broken when that one's over.